Shannon Kaiser. I am the author of several books on getting unstuck, how to be happy, how to follow your heart. Books called Find Your Happy, the Find Your Happy, and Adventures for Your Soul, The Self-Love Experiment, Return to You, Find Your Happy. And most excitedly, I have a brand new Oracle deck coming out called Guidance from Gaia. I wanted to share a little bit more about this beautiful deck and how it came to be. Flashback to little Shannon, starting with actually who I dedicated this deck to. You don't always dedicate decks, but I knew I needed to. And here I say dedicated, share the dedication with you. I dedicate this to my inner child, little me, who fell in love with the animal kingdom at a very young age and found solace and safety in connecting in the truth of communion with Gaia and her animals and all the guides. And I dedicate this entire deck to the animal kingdom of the planet, because here on Earth, may your wisdom support and help uplift and guide us and guide humanity into more compassion and love for ourselves and towards each other, and for all of life as we return to our roots. And I really wanted to start with that by sharing Guidance from Gaia is about returning to our roots. We have gone through so much over the past several years, so much, both on a collective, global level, and then individually. Many of us have just gone through so many changes. And through all this, it's been very chaotic. And it's been important to really look at our life in new ways, recognizing that we have tools available to us to connect back inward, connecting to calm. And so Guidance from Gaia came from this desire to calm and find calm in the chaos, but even more so connect back to what I know works. And when I was a little child, I used to sit on the playground and go out into the grass. Every other child and kid in elementary school was running around and playing ball and chasing each other and swings, and all that's fun. But I found solace in literally sitting in the grass with my sketch pad drawing, and I would draw animals, and I would feel so much peace. This craziness happening all around me, energy running around, and all these people with all this high kind of lots of vibration. Peace was with me when I grounded myself. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time. But when you go into nature and connect with the energy and the ions in the consciousness of Mother Earth, there's a calming effect. And so that whole entire calming effect and connecting with nature has been a guiding post for my life. I went through many things in my life, many experiences that pulled me away from myself with an opportunity to return back to me. And through all of these opportunities, such as job loss, being diagnosed with depression, overcoming anxiety, overcoming some very toxic situations and emotional abusive relationships, to understanding that we have more power than we've been given credit for. Through every life pivotal moment of my journey, I have been able to connect to Earth, Gaia, the animals. And the animals have been so powerful, especially in my life transitions. So the idea of animal spirits was like a no-brainer to bring it forward, because they have been such a radical part of my own journey. And it's not something I openly taught a lot because it was so sacred to me. So when I presented to my publisher both the opportunity to design my own deck, it was an honor, because I do love drawing animals. So it's like a little gift to the little me that was made fun of, the little me that all the other children laughed at and thought I was stupid and silly and wasting my time. As an adult, I get to connect here to the truest aspect and the most aligned version of me, which is to connect with energy of the earth and let the animals guide us. And so as you see here on the video, if you're watching, showing you a sample of some of the animals that wanted to be in this deck. We have, the octopus, right? We have the seal, and you may be into Oracle card decks. And so Oracle card decks are really guidance. They're decks that give you information. And the way it works is you can kind of ask, what is the guidance for today? What is the opportunity? And there's different spreads you can use. And a Gaia deck is about connecting with earth energy, even if you don't have the capacity to go outside. Or bring your deck outside and go to the coast or the beach. Go sit in nature, go sit in grass, go under the trees and let this be part of your practice. As I designed it, it was very clear to me that it needed to infuse the elements of what the animal spirit can help us with. Animal spirits have been around for centuries. Our ancestors have worked with them. And maybe you've seen in your own life an animal that kind of appears randomly that's not always there. I like to talk about that in the sense that that's your animal guide. And so, there was some pivotal moments in my life when the animals really came forward. I first left advertising in 2009. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I was in a different career and I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't know how to get started as a writer. And I was still feeling the depression and I was leaving that career, but I couldn't understand why I felt so stuck. And the deer spirit animal, I kept seeing deer out in the wild. I kept even going to places and a deer was on the cover of a magazine. And then I went to this spirit, mind, body conference, and there was a lecturer, and she was a psychic medium, and she was talking to people in the audience. She was just like sharing her lecture on stage, and this was really a pivotal moment in my life. And she kept looking over at me. She kept looking over, like in the middle of her kind of talk, and I was like, "Do I have something on my face? Like, what is she doing?" And she said, "I'm sorry, everyone." And she like stopped and she said, my dear, do you know that you have a spirit animal with you? He's sitting right behind you, and he has a message, and it is a deer. You have a deer with you, and the deer wants you to trust yourself more, wants you to know that there's a gentleness in this transition. And I was like shocked, but it made so much sense. And I became friends with her and we talked after, and it was wonderful when she shared, yes, spirit animals come to us and they guide us at different parts of our life. And so that was really a turning point for me where I started to lean on the animal spirits a lot more. And they started to be my guides. A little bit later, I was in a relationship and I was realizing this relationship was holding me back. I didn't feel like I could be myself anymore. And there was starting to be signs of just a lot of unhealthy behavior of attachments and toxic financial abuse. And I was feeling like I was being more used and I was more not what I thought when I went into the relationship. It had morphed into this kind of codependent energy, and I recognized something's off. And I saw a frog in my bedroom. How did a frog get in my bedroom? A real life frog. And I said, "Are you a spirit animal?" And the frog looked up at me. I'm not even joking. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn more about these animals. And then I started to really understand what animal spirit messengers have. So you can work with the animal kingdom in the real world. And you can also work with them in card decks like this. So when I was making this deck, it was really important for me to bring in the animals that have really helped me in my journey, but also the ones that don't get represented a lot. There are many Oracle animal decks out in the world, and they're fabulous. But when I was working with my publisher to bring this forward, one of the things that was really important for me was to represent the animals that actually have amazing guidance, but don't get as much kind of publicity or possibility of being exposed. And some of those includes the unicorn. And the unicorn, my publisher, we were going through the art, and she was the editor in the team, and Michelle at Beyond Words, she's like, "I love the unicorn that you have it in here." And I do too, because the unicorn represents this connection to our imagination. It represents this connection to no holds bars. Don't let yourself be held back by what is possible or what's not, because, were unicorns real? Were they not? We don't know. Or do we know? That's the whole aspect of these mystical creatures that I added in here, not just the regular horse, it's actually a unicorn. So the guidance of the unicorn, I allow innocence and delight to lead me. It's about, where have you been taking yourself too seriously? How can you connect back inward to this childlike sense of awe, of wonder, letting yourself be surprised, taking out the seriousness of life, and also leading with your internal power. Something very powerful about that. I also wanted to add animals like the sloth. We have the sloth card here. I spent a lot of time in Central America and lived in Mexico when I was working on this specific deck. So you'll see a lot of the vibrant colors, this signature play with the bold. my play with the world, kind of opportunity of bringing in these bold colors, these contrasting the golds. But the sloth itself, I remember them saying, we haven't had a sloth before. The sloth needs to be in there because the sloth, the guidance of sloth is I conserve my energy. I put myself first. So important, because how often are we overextending ourselves and moving into territories where we're always showing up for others? The sloth goes at his own pace, and he's not afraid to relax, or right? The sloth goes slow, and it has no apologies about that. And so sometimes we race through life, we want to get to the next thing, and the sloth can help us slow down. I wanted to share also some important ones. My very favorite in the whole deck is the black sheep, for multiple reasons. Haven't seen a black sheep in a deck. We see lambs and sheeps, but the black sheep specifically is the renegade spirit. The black sheep is all about following the path to the truth above all else. The black sheep is dedicated to honoring itself with integrity and living through its values. And so in here, we have guidance of the black sheep. I demonstrate what's possible when I live from my heart and trust my own intuition. The black sheep is a leader, but it's not leading by you must follow me. It's leading because it goes first. I trust truth is my compass, and I follow it daily, and it stands on the truth, and it will die on the truth. And that is what the black sheep stands for. So it's powerful to have a deck full of that. Also, we have animals, insects, the scorpion. I had to put a scorpion in here because, well, exactly, the Scorpio energy of like the astrology is about death, rebirth, learning through destruction. And so when I was working on the deck, I was actually going through some traumatic experiences in life situations that were very difficult. And the scorpion was like, put me in the deck, put me in the deck. I'm like, how can I possibly make a scorpion? Not, no offense to the scorpion, but not everyone's going to think the insects are great to have on their cards. But we had to represent all aspects of the animal kingdom. And the scorpion is the guidance as I examine my own toxic tendencies. I am vulnerable with myself and others. A lot of this is about this hard shell, and it will kind of sting you. But underneath is this softness. Underneath is this real big heart, this need to be seen and valued for what it is. But in order to do that, we have to look at the barriers that are blocking us and our own patterns and beliefs that are maybe hindering us from reaching that new level. And so that's really what I wanted to infuse in this deck. And of course, we have other animals that are just so wonderful, like the koala. You don't see this too often, but I've been to Australia and I wanted to represent animals from all continents as well. So that's another element of this deck that I just love that we can bring it forward. And another thing here is with each animal has guidance and action steps that we can take immediately. I call them awesome actions, but for example, the guidance of the eagle. Now, eagles represent freedom, rise above it, get a new perspective. But the guidance is to go sit on a perch and just observe. And so when you go to the booklet, so we have on each card, there's elements, and there's 5 elements that I've really shared in this specific deck. And I designed it to help us. So we have earth, which is the physical aspects. And then we have water, animals that are the emotional, and they talk about the emotional elements of your life. Fire is going to be the mental. So the fire animals, going to represent like snake and the lion. They have this energy to them. And then the air are the intellectual animals. A lot of animals you will find in the air, like the birds. But then I added spiritual. And the spiritual are the environmental ones, the kind of the ones you can't always see, such as the unicorn or even the black sheep. And we also have, zebra in there and the snail. But something that's so important and wonderful about this is when you go to each card and the section, it will give you guidance. So if we just go to 35 here, you go and it's a full color guidebook. Most Oracle decks aren't that. And so I'm so thankful that we were able to do a full color guidebook. So you go to the page and I'll just read about the actual eagle for us. The guidance of eagle is freedom, imagination, and liberation. Perched high above the drama, eagle stays away from all entanglements, and it focuses more on self-actualization and freedom. It's choosing not to participate in the unnecessary demands and dogmas that weigh so many people down. The eagle has come to you today to remind you that you have a power to liberate yourself from the mundane details of life and the overwhelming aspects that surround you. Take time to retreat, go into the clouds, give yourself time to relax, because as an adult, we don't actually give ourselves permission to have time for play or to daydream. But the eagle has flown into your path today to ask you to be more playful and your thoughts, and align your thoughts and energy by setting time aside to just let your imagination flow. The guide of Gaia also asks you to take an honest look at your life and see where you are out of alignment with your inner child's needs. What did you need when you were younger that you actually can give yourself today? Whether it was an emotional, physical, or mental need that was not met, you can liberate yourself moving forward. And so the eagle reminds us that you can release draining baggage that surrounds you by guiding you to a higher perspective and freeing you from pains of the past. And so another thing with each animal, I have a shadow side. In this deck, you can see the shadow side and then illuminated. And the shadow side is when we're not operating in our best self. So if you pulled ego today and you're feeling kind of like the shadow side is activated, it's when you're feeling more controlling, domineering, or you're clumsy. And the illuminated side would be the opportune highlight, the opportunity for the highest timeline available, accessing the energy. So you're confident, you're powerful, and you are reliable. And so my favorite aspect of each card, aside from all of what I've shared so far, is you can bring yourself into alignment. So if you drew eagle, that's the card we're going for today. All of us need more eagle in our life. To bring into alignment, take flight and go rest on a perch. Give yourself permission to daydream and connect to your inner child needs. So that is the mission for all of us today. And then the ego affirmation as you carry yourself forward: I am inspired and free to lead my life in new directions. So I invite all of you to get in touch with your inner self through this deck and connect to your roots. Guidance from Gaia is available for pre-order, and I am so excited to share this with you. Thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for playing with the world.